He remained in the doorway, a statue of silence, his gaze firmly fixed on mine. And then he posed a question that no woman ever anticipates hearing from her stepson. My heart halted, and a chill swept through my stomach. I thought I had misheard him. I desperately wanted to believe I had. But no, he meant what he said. Every word resonated, and in that moment, right then and there, I sensed a profound shift had occurred. An indelible moment, forever etched in my memory. I can still envision how the hallway light caressed his features, accompanied by the soft, soothing hum of the fridge hummed softly in the background, while the dull ache in my chest, a sensation all too familiar, suddenly erupts into something more profound, something far more intense than I anticipated. I was unready for that moment, unprepared for what followed next, and certainly not for how it would transform my perception of myself and my marriage. And for him, I realized this may seem like a scene pulled directly from a tumultuous soap opera or a dramatic film you'd casually dismiss. Your gaze? Yet this is my reality. This truly occurred. And even now, it's difficult to discern whether it was a heartfelt plea for affection or a merciless turn of destiny. Perhaps it was a blend of both. Observe when, for years, you have lingered in the quiet corners of your own home, a presence unnoticed, a voice unheard, and a heart untouched. The faintest warmth ignites a blaze, and even a whisper resonates like a melody, creating an enchanting atmosphere. Occasionally, that warmth emerges from the most surprising sources. One must never truly depart, yet the heart often dances to its own rhythm, disregarding the boundaries established by the mind, particularly in moments of deep emotion. Longing for something deeper, I was taken aback when he gazed at me that night and uttered those words I never imagined I would hear. From someone I nurtured, I sensed my world fracture, softly yet profoundly, and from that crack revealed emotions I didn't even realize were still buried within me, a sense of shame, a perplexing tale of perilous curiosity, one I have shared with only a select few. To be completely candid, I'm not quite sure how to start articulating this, yet here I am, sharing it with you. Perhaps, just perhaps, you might comprehend. Perhaps you've experienced it yourself. Your own path, especially if you've encountered a moment that challenged your principles profoundly, or if you've ever found yourself caught in a conflict between who you are and who you are becoming. Stay with me. This journey is not simple. It's filled with twists and turns. It's unfiltered and authentic, prompting you to ponder various aspects of life, perhaps even your identity. Yet, this story must be shared. And if you're just joining us, be sure to subscribe to Stories I Know, where the truth unfolds. Stories shatter the stillness, for it is often within that quietude that the most perilous secrets reside. And tonight I find myself. At last, I am prepared to share my story. Allow me to transport you to the moment it all started. Let me guide you back. It takes me back to the beginning, to a time when I was in my early 40s and made the decision to marry Lucas. In a second marriage, one often hears that while it may not be flawless, it certainly surpasses the solitude of being alone. That sentiment resonates deeply. He began as a kind, stable, and successful presence after enduring years of chaos in my past. Marriage seemed like a glimpse of peace, Yet that tranquility can swiftly transform into a hollow void when authenticity is absent. There was a profound connection beneath the surface, yet Lucas was perpetually consumed by his work. Trips, client dinners, late-night emails on the couch with his back turned to me. We shared a home, a bed, and a routine. But not quite. The connection I longed for. A life, not merely a heartbeat, not any longer. At times, I'd express myself and feel as though the words floated by him like a gentle breeze, almost imperceptible. And as time passed, seconds ceased my efforts to be acknowledged, to be visible. I melded into the background, existing yet overlooked. Henry Lucas had a son from his first marriage, a 21-year-old college student. Studying architecture, I returned home during long weekends and school breaks, tall and confident, embodying a kind of quiet strength. Charisma that drew people closer when he spoke. But what captivated me the most wasn't his appearance or the manner in which he carried himself with a unique grace, perceiving others through a lens of curiosity. He asked thoughtful questions and listened intently, drawing out the stories that lay beneath the surface, and not in that distracted, polite manner. He truly listened. At times, he caught my gaze as I spoke, his eyes locked onto mine as if he genuinely cared about my words, and after months of uncertainty, it felt significant. The sensation of being a specter within my own dwelling, that kind of attention, was both unfamiliar and comforting. We would share our secrets in the kitchen as I prepared dinner, or in the living room when Lucas was away, lost in his laptop. Initially, it was the little things, his classes, my work, and the occasional random stories. But then he began inquiring about my life, my history, and my aspirations. Questions that had never been posed to me before. That anymore. Not even Lucas. There was always something intriguing about Henry, something I couldn't put a name to it at the time, but I vividly recall the sensation. It was akin to being truly seen. To embrace vibrancy once more after a prolonged existence in monotony. I reassured myself it was merely a fleeting thought. Just a young man exhibiting courtesy. Yet my imagination seemed to weave its own narrative. However, beneath the surface, I was acutely aware that my instincts were telling me otherwise. Our home was truly a sight to behold, exuding beauty from the outside, a serene and pristine haven nestled away. In a serene suburban enclave, expansive, windows invite natural light, while a meticulously tended garden complements the polished countertops of the kitchen, creating an inviting and harmonious atmosphere. Yet beneath the surface, it frequently exuded a sense of sterility, akin to a flawlessly arranged hotel suite. Yet, the atmosphere felt devoid of warmth. Dinner was often consumed in quietude, with Lucas lost in his scrolling. As he focused on his phone, I found myself captivated by the flickering candle flame, pondering whether he had even taken a moment to notice my presence. Lit it. And Henry, when he was home, was the only one who ever inquired about how my. There was a day I remember vividly, a moment etched in my mind. I was seated, and anyone who dared to meet my gaze as I spoke left an indelible mark on my heart. With the book resting in my lap and a glass of wine in hand, I find myself captivated by the sky as it transforms into a breathtaking canvas. As the golden pink hues of sunset enveloped us, Henry emerged from the shadows and settled beside me in silence. We lingered in that moment, the world around us fading away, until finally, the stillness broke. He said softly, "You look peaceful. like this. My heart skipped a beat, and I felt my cheeks flush. My cheeks flushed, and I instinctively averted my gaze. It was a seemingly simple comment, yet it held so much weight. The weight was heavy, yet I found myself drawn to it. I craved to experience it further. I recall pondering, what is it about this phenomenon that feels so delightful? Yet I understood precisely why. It had been an eternity since someone made me feel valued. Lucas and I had not been... It had been months, perhaps even longer, since we had shared any intimacy. He always seemed too tired, too busy, and too distracted. We were indifferent, not engaging in arguments. Instead, we simply coexisted like courteous roommates who shared a space. Once we cherished one another, yet somehow lost our way amidst the silence that lingered in the chasm between our true selves and the facades we wore. Henry's voice resonated with a captivating intensity. It wasn't merely the words he spoke, but the way he lingered in the room long after the conversation had ended. Everyone else had departed, yet the lingering touch of his fingers against mine as he passed me a dish, and the intensity of his gaze that held on me for just a moment remained. Etched in my memory, for far too long, I kept dismissing it, convincing myself that I was interpreting situations or overanalyzing them due to feelings of loneliness and longing, in search of connection. I yearned for affection in every possible corner, yet I sensed a subtle transformation, unfolding, gentle and hushed, much like the way spring gently arrives, one tender breeze at a time, and the truth is, two cease to dismiss it. Instead, I began to anticipate the next fleeting glance, the next engaging conversation, and the next compelling reason to connect, to experience that spark once more, even if it originated from an unexpected source, even if it challenged everything I believed to be true. My life was on the brink of transformation, though I was unaware at the time. It was in those fleeting moments, those simple yet profound interactions, that everything began to shift. They were the initial fissures in the fortress I had constructed around my heart. And once a fortress starts to show signs of weakness, it requires little for. It was a Friday afternoon when Lucas departed for one of his usual weekend conferences. He kissed me softly on his cheek, as always, bore the imprint of a quick routine, easily forgotten. The suitcase rolled out the door alongside him, and just like that, the moment slipped away. The house fell into a familiar quiet, a silence I had come to know well, yet this time Henry was. He returned home from school the previous night, casually, dropping his bag in the hallway and kicking off his shoes as if he were shedding the weight of the day. Owned the place. And I found it quite comforting. In fact, the house seemed to radiate warmth with his presence. Soft melodies floated from his room, accompanied by the sound of laughter as he spoke, engaged in a conversation with his friends, the kind of vibrant energy that rekindled my sense of vitality. That evening, I was, as I wrapped up in the kitchen, savoring the last of the leftovers and a glass of wine. He strolled in, leaning casually against the counter, asked, "Would you like to watch something tonight?" It reminded me of the wonderful old days, and I chuckled softly at the nostalgia. There were times he would reminisce about his teenage years, especially during the holidays when he returned home, and we would indulge in delightful holiday films, while playfully debating the merits of various popcorn flavors. It was a charmingly innocent experience. There was a nostalgic warmth, a sense of safety that enveloped me. I had uttered just a single word, yet its weight lingered, settling deep within my chest as the moments unfolded. I opted for something casual yet nice, though I assured myself it wasn't for him. Myself, but as I entered the living room, I caught his gaze lingering on me, a heartbeat too long at my. The neckline drew my attention, and in that moment, I sensed the weight of the pause, the silence that lingered between his gaze and his words. "You look absolutely stunning tonight," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper, as if the words had slipped out unintentionally. It escaped my lips before I could contain it, and I smiled, though it was with a tightness in my chest and a hint of nervousness. I settled beside him, mindful to maintain a delicate balance of distance, close enough to feel the warmth of his presence, yet far enough to respect the unspoken boundaries between us. We experienced a delightful moment, one that has slipped from my memory, leaving only the lingering sensation of joy that danced within me. His gaze lingered on me during those serene moments, the subtle touch of our hands as we both reached for the popcorn bowl at once. The moment lingered as he hesitated to withdraw, just as I did. My heart beat fiercely, fully aware, while my skin tingled with a heightened sensitivity. There was a part of me that longed to escape, to end the evening and seek refuge in the comfort of my room. Yet another part yearned for something more. The yearning within lingered, reluctant to let the night fade away as the credits rolled and the lights remained softly dimmed, and the silence enveloped us, a blend of reverence and peril. Then he turned to me, his expression devoid of humor, his voice low and serious. "Be careful, May I ask you something?" he inquired, his gaze lingering on me. I nodded, unable to trust my voice. He hesitated, his eyes searching mine, his gaze locked onto mine, and I couldn't help but wonder if he ever felt lonely. Just like that, my stomach dropped at his question. It lingered in the atmosphere, gentle yet sharp. Do you ever experience that sense of solitude? I found myself at a loss for words. How do you articulate a loneliness that seeps beneath your skin? A presence that trails you from one room to another, the kind of room that envelops you, even with another presence in the house. A sensation that seeps into your very bones while you lie next to a man who hasn't truly glanced your way in months. I fixated on the screen as the credits continued to roll, my throat tightening with emotion. The instant I found myself outside that room with Henry, I felt as though I was suspended in the air, gazing down at the scene below. This version of myself that felt unfamiliar. I wanted to refuse, to dismiss it with laughter. Yet the truth is, I had felt a profound loneliness for so long that it became a part of my existence, almost unnoticed. Loneliness settled in, becoming a familiar presence, a quiet ache that lingered like the slow, persistent drip from a leaky faucet. The faucet, a fixture I had long overlooked, suddenly became the center of attention as Henry brought it to light. I turned to him, my gaze drawn by his observation. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed he wasn't attempting to be clever or seductive. Instead, he appeared genuinely curious, even worried. I nodded in response. He sat there beside me, closer than before, his silence enveloping us in a tender moment that spoke volumes. In that moment, the silence enveloped us, resonating more profoundly than any words we might have exchanged. Later that night, as we lay in bed, I found myself reflecting on it all, reliving that instant, his voice, his gaze, the way he regarded me as if I were someone truly captivating, not merely another adult drifting through the house in a state of lethargy, but a woman rich with depth and complexity. Longing consumed me, a feeling I despised yet found myself unable to fully reject. It was a paradox that left me conflicted. I reassured myself that his kindness was simply that, kindness. Perhaps he had noticed my recent distance. Perhaps he was attempting to bridge the gap between us. Maybe it was more than just a fleeting gesture. Perhaps it was all innocent. Maybe he truly meant nothing by it. Perhaps I was simply yearning to experience something once more. Because the reality is, Lucas no longer inquired about my well-being. He simply stopped. His fingers brushed against the small of my back in the kitchen, and he intertwined his hand with mine as we sat together watching a movie. Yet his gaze never met mine. The way Henry had gazed at me that night left me yearning for that kind of attention, a craving I hadn't even recognized until then. Empty I had become until someone began to fill the void, yet the guilt surged in just as swiftly, enveloping me in its grasp. Like a second skin, I drew the covers closer, around me, as if they could offer a protective barrier. I found myself grappling with the thoughts that crept through my mind. Was I reading too much into it? Was something truly unfolding before me? Was it real, or merely a figment of my imagination? Perhaps I was simply in a fragile state, projecting my unfulfilled desires onto the situation. Someone who genuinely cared. Someone who took note when I adorned my ears with earrings, altered my hairstyle, or illuminated the living space with a candle. There was no space for anyone but me. I struggled to articulate my feelings without the weight of guilt. Yet there, it was. There was a voice within me, soft yet unwavering, gently urging me to confront truths I was reluctant to face. The part of me that... It was a moment that pulsed with energy, his words wrapping around me like a warm embrace. He lingered in the living room, just a heartbeat longer than needed, and the air crackled with unspoken possibilities. One who dressed with greater attention, just in case he happened to be nearby. That part was becoming increasingly pronounced, and the embarrassment of it all felt raw and unrefined. The weight of shame felt nearly insurmountable, yet just below the surface lay a deeper truth. Amidst all that guilt, there lingered something else, something dangerously akin to desire. I reassured myself that it was merely curiosity, a fleeting desire to understand what it truly meant to be seen once more, to be acknowledged, to experience the warmth of being wanted. I reassured myself that I wasn't overstepping any boundaries, that a mere thought didn't equate to an action, and that loneliness can lead one to such reflections. Envisioning moments, I felt an undeniable connection between us, something profound lingering beneath the surface, unspoken yet unmistakably present, and the more I tried to dismiss it, the more potent it became. Draw me closer, I kept whispering to myself. This is not right, this is not right, this is not right. Yet there was an undeniable allure in the experience of truly being noticed, not merely glanced at or tolerated, but genuinely seen. And once that realization dawns, it transforms everything. Having experienced the challenge of returning to a state of invisibility, I followed the path that countless women have taken. I smiled in the daylight, feigning that all was well. And as night fell, I lay there, gazing at the ceiling, my heart racing as I grappled with a question that I wasn't prepared to confront. When he asked me if I had ever felt lonely, something shifted between us that night, and I knew it couldn't end here. Silence enveloped the moment, where unspoken words lingered in the air, and the delicate dance of emotions unfolded without a single rule being bent or boundary transgressed. Yet the atmosphere shifted. An unspoken awareness lingered, creating a serene tension. The tension lingered between us, a thick, invisible fog that was undeniably present. Lucas remained distant, and even upon his return, it felt as though he was still absent. He strolled through the house as if he were a guest, briefcase in hand, his thoughts drifting elsewhere. He pressed a gentle kiss to my forehead, then glanced at his phone, inquiring about the bills before retreating to his office. The bedroom felt like a corridor, an expanse devoid of entryways, merely a chasm of separation. Yet Henry was there, lingering in the kitchen as I cooked, leaning against the counter. Leaning against the counter, he inquired about my day, effortlessly assisting with the cleanup, without needing a prompt. Share with me some amusing impressions and delightful tales from school. His professors, the antics of group projects, and all the memorable moments in between. The weight of his father's expectations bore down on him, and one evening he confessed, "Sometimes I feel like I'm just evaluate his grades, internships, and career path, but remember, he is not just a checklist item," remained by my side as I understood precisely what that experience entailed, and he began to share more of himself. Gradually revealing the anxiety he endeavored to conceal, the weight of the pressure began to surface. The solitude he experienced despite being among others, and the way those words resonated. The words created a sense of intimacy between us, not in a physical sense, at least not at that moment. There was an emotional depth that felt almost maternal, yet it remained just out of reach, blurring the lines between affection and something more profound. I hadn't even known it was possible, yet I found myself eagerly anticipating our conversations, savoring the moment spent lingering in the kitchen. Slightly extended laughter, a bit more exuberant, as I brushed flour from my hands onto my jeans. Cleverly avoiding the need to wipe them clean them on a towel in front of him may seem absurd. Yet when the sensation of being desired has eluded you for so long, even the smallest gestures can hold profound significance. The tiniest glimmers of connection ignite like sparks, and I begin to alter my wardrobe. Not in a dramatic way. Just, perhaps I should have chosen the delicate blouse over my worn sweatshirt, applied a touch of lip gloss instead of going bare, and spritzed on some perfume, even if just a hint. I wasn't going anywhere, not for him. I reminded myself it was all about me, yet deep down, I knew the truth. It was evident he noticed. I could sense it in the way his gaze lingered just a moment too long, and in the way his smile brightened when I entered the room. Into the room, his voice softened as he spoke to me, making me feel as though I truly mattered. And perhaps that was what rendered it so perilous, as I found myself starting to believe it as well. The subtle touches began to weave their way in, softly illuminating the moment. Casual yet brimming with unspoken tension, his hand brushed against mine as we moved past each other. During dinner, he placed a bowl down, his palm gently resting on my back as he brushed past me in the hallway. Our knees brushed together, igniting a spark between us. We sat too close on the couch, and neither of us dared to move away. Those moments felt innocent until they transformed into something more. Hadn't I just finished showering? The door was pulled nearly closed, but not quite. I stood before the mirror, a towel draped around me, brushing my hair. Suddenly, a familiar prickle danced along the back of my neck. He turned slightly, catching sight of the narrow sliver of space in the door. Where his eyes lingered, Henry stood there, watching intently. He didn't move, didn't flinch. He remained perfectly still, absorbed in the moment. In that fleeting moment, I found myself unguarded, silent, and still. As the door slammed shut, I found myself frozen in place, enveloped in a profound stillness that unleashed a torrent of thoughts within me. Through me coursed a blend of shame and guilt, igniting a heat that was both terrifying and intoxicating, leaving me uncertain of what to make of it. I felt a sense of trust as he turned away, disappearing down the hall like a fleeting shadow, leaving me standing there with my heart racing. My heart raced as I fixated on the crack in the door, feeling as though it had turned against me. I whispered to myself that it was a mistake, that perhaps I hadn't intended to glance his way. Perhaps he wasn't even paying attention to me. Yet deep down, I understood the truth. And to my surprise, I found myself feeling less horrified than I should have. As I should have anticipated, later that night, the house fell into a serene silence. Lucas had departed. As he lay in peaceful slumber, softly snoring on his side of the mattress, I quietly rose to fetch a glass. Amidst the gentle hum of the kitchen, a folded piece of paper lay waiting on the counter, bearing my name. With trembling hands, I reached for it, unfolding the paper slowly to read the words within. The words on the note left me utterly still. It was brief, just a single line. "Can we? There's something I need to discuss with you privately." My heart sank the instant I read it. It wasn't that I was unaware of its meaning. Rather, it was precisely because I understood it that I found myself standing in the kitchen with that paper clutched in my hand. The silence of the house enveloped me, pressing in from every corner, while the soft hum of the refrigerator hummed softly, while the wood creaked gently as it settled into the night. Even the sound of my breath seemed amplified in the stillness, prompting me to look around. As I approached the back patio, the glow of the porch light illuminated the scene. There he sat on the steps, lost in thought, gazing out into the evening. Into the darkness, I found myself drawn by an inexplicable force. Curiosity mingled with fear, a part of me yearning for the unknown. To feign that everything remained pure, while another part recognized that we had already ventured too near to something. I hesitated, my hand lingering on the doorknob as I opened the door slowly. A cool breeze brushed against my skin, sending a shiver of anticipation through me. And the air was filled with the scent of freshly cut grass, and the night enveloped them. Yet he remained facing away, simply said, "Thanks for coming out." His voice was low and tense, as if it had cost him something. In that moment, I took a seat beside him, deliberately leaving a space that spoke volumes. Yet, the atmosphere remained suffocatingly intimate, the silence enveloping them like a heavy blanket. He inhaled deeply, breaking the stillness with a whisper. I don't want to complicate things," he said, his voice steady yet vulnerable. "But I must be truthful with you." A knot formed in my stomach as my hands instinctively clasped together. My knuckles were white as I held on tightly, unable to meet his gaze, yet acutely aware of his eyes fixed on me. He whispered it so softly that I nearly overlooked the words. "I think about you all the time," he confessed as I turned away. To him, I was stunned. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't playing a game. "I know it's wrong." He continued, "I know I shouldn't feel this way, but I can't see you as a stepmom." He paused, swallowing hard as he looked at me. As a woman, I found myself unable to speak. My chest tightened with unspoken emotions, felt constricted, as if something were collapsing from within. I observed every word he spoke, and the way your face lights up when you laugh, the way you illuminate the room with candles as darkness falls, the way your attire reflects a casual elegance, as if you seek to impress no one but yourself. Still take my breath away. I should have stood my ground. I should have put an end to it right then and there. But I didn't, because there was a deep yearning within me, a longing that had lingered for far too long, waiting to feel desired. And he understood that need perfectly. He looked at me, his eyes brimming with something raw, trembling, and achingly real. "Are you happy with my dad?" he asked, and I flinched. He didn't wait for my answer, for I could see the way It feels as though you're taken for granted, as if your presence is merely acknowledged rather than celebrated. Yet, you are truly remarkable, and I find myself at a loss for words. Cease pondering the possibilities of what it might be like if it were I, if it were we. That word, we, lingered in the atmosphere like a haunting melody. With a cacophony of emotions swirling within me, I fixed my gaze on the shadowy trees dancing. In the breeze, my heart racing in response. The pounding in my ears rendered me speechless, for every word threatened to reveal my deepest secrets. I longed to scream, to cry, to deny the truth that weighed heavily upon my heart. I could have fled and sought refuge indoors, yet I chose to remain, enduring the discomfort of that dreadful moment. In the electric silence, I remained voiceless while he poured out his heart. A door creaked open, one that was meant to remain sealed for eternity. The words eluded me, yet the silence that enveloped us spoke volumes. After that night on the porch, everything shifted irrevocably. Yet, in that moment, we exchanged no words. We simply let the silence envelop us. What lay between us had shifted. It was no longer electric, but rather weighed down by an uncomfortable tension, sharp and awkward at the edges. The kind of silence that holds a knowing, one that doesn't seek answers because it has already embraced them. For the days we wandered together, like two strangers, I would encounter him in the hallway, and he would avert his gaze as I poured my heart into the silence between us. In the kitchen, the aroma of coffee lingers as I hear his footsteps retreat, a silent departure that speaks volumes. No more lengthy conversations, no more moments of stillness. Glances lingered at a distance, but it was not a clear separation. It was tangled and overwhelming. With all the unspoken words between us, I averted my gaze, fearing the emotions that might linger in his eyes. Perhaps pity, perhaps guilt. Even resentment lingered. and perhaps I was more afraid of what he might still perceive in my eyes, those unspoken words that I had yet to deny. As I walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that I should have stayed. It was as if I was unraveling, caught in a tumultuous battle between shame and longing. Something else I couldn't identify, a sensation that caused my chest to ache in a manner unrelated to love. And everything revolves around the feeling of being noticed and then left behind. Lucas returned home that Thursday, stepped inside, and kissed my cheek, set his bag down, and paused. "Are you okay?" he asked. I nodded, perhaps a bit too quickly, smiled with a hint of restraint, and as usual, he chose not to probe further. Yet I sensed she sensed the tension, the palpable shift in the atmosphere, and the chill that lingered in the corners of the house. We could no longer find warmth between us, and Henry hardly returned home after that. He began to drift away. Staying out late, he claimed he was studying and spending time with friends. But as he walked away, the truth lingered in the air. As the door creaked open, it felt as though an unfamiliar presence had stepped into the space, avoiding any gaze, shrouded in an air of mystery. Casual conversation echoed softly as footsteps faded down the hall, the door clicking shut behind him. I would continue standing in the quiet of the night. My hands trembled as I washed dishes that were already clean, the sound of the door closing reverberating in the stillness around me. As I stood at the door, I found myself lost in contemplation, questioning my actions and the person I had become. Was this the essence of quietly unraveling something? Not through flames, but through silence, or expressing turmoil through quietude and subtle hints. I often felt unwell in a profound way, physically, yet there was a deeper wound within me, a fracture that continued to bleed. I reassured myself that it was deserved, the distance, the guilt, the silence. Yet, a part of me continued to hold on, still waiting. He still wished he would walk into the kitchen as he used to, casually asking, "How was your day?" Or perhaps suggesting, "We could if only we could turn back the clock and erase that night beneath the stars when everything fell apart." Lucas, he seemed oblivious, or perhaps he simply preferred to carry on with his life as if nothing had changed. Oblivious to the silent turmoil within his wife, he remained unaware that their home was haunted by the echoes of unspoken memories. That nearly transpired, alongside the events that did unfold. One evening, Lucas succumbed to slumber As the soft hum of the television filled the air, I strolled by Henry's room, the atmosphere thick with unspoken tension. With the door ajar, an inexplicable urge compelled me to step inside. Inside, his bed, the sheets lay in disarray, while books and clothes were strewn about, as if he hadn't quite found his place since returning home. It felt like a space suspended in time, caught between the innocence of youth and the responsibilities of adulthood, teetering on the edge of connection and solitude. As I hurried away, my gaze caught sight of something nestled beneath his pillow, a small notebook. I couldn't quite comprehend its significance. Why did I open it? I shouldn't have, but I did. And what I discovered within shattered me. Every detail spoke of its history. The small, worn leather corners and the bent pages, soft from countless readings. The sort of notebook that holds your innermost thoughts. A sanctuary untouched by external influences. Perhaps it was a mistake to delve into its pages, I understand that feeling all too well. Once my fingers touched it, it was as if I was compelled to. Part of me was preparing for a truth I had already accepted. The initial pages were merely a collection of scribbles, class notes, and drawings. But then, deeper within, he found himself exposed in his own chaotic, tilted state. Handwriting. I perched on the edge of his bed, my heart thudding in my ears as I read. I find myself in a whirlwind of emotions, grappling with feelings I know I shouldn't harbor for her. Yet I can't resist. She embodies everything I've ever desired. Doesn't notice that she listens, that she laughs at my jokes, that she makes me feel desired. And I understand it's complicated, and perhaps even a bit twisted. But she occupies my thoughts and my dreams in ways I can't quite shake off. At times I wonder if she perceives me differently. Not merely as a child, but as a man. Stopped breathing. I loathe myself for desiring her, for craving that connection. Yet, when I'm near her, it was as if I could finally inhale deeply. And I had no intention of letting that sensation fade away. That's when the realization struck me. Every bit of it, the burden, the devastation, the reality I had been unwilling to acknowledge. This was not. It's not merely a tale of a boy with a crush or a woman yearning for affection. This narrative delves into something far more profound and perilous. It explores the intricate dance between two souls, individuals who were each navigating their paths of uncertainty, and yet I was expected to possess the wisdom to guide them. Closed the journal with trembling hands, pressing it against my chest, as if I could somehow erase the words I had just read. But it lingered, already etched into my being. I shattered in that moment within his room, curling up on the edge of his bed. Tears streamed down my face until I was numb, not only from his emotions, but also from my own choices. I was meant to shield him, to lead him, and to help him grow into the adult he was destined to become. A maternal presence, despite not having given life to him or sharing any blood ties. I embraced that role when I married his father, yet I allowed the boundaries to blur, succumbing to my own loneliness and desires. An overwhelming yearning to be desired overshadowed all else, as I continued to perceive him in a way that was not true to reality. A young man who reignited a spark within me, reminding me of the beauty of being truly alive. It was a betrayal, not to Lucas nor to Henry, but to myself. What kind of woman am I? What kind of woman embraces silence, allowing glances and unspoken emotions to linger in the air? To flourish amidst such turmoil, I reflected on Lucas, his absence, the slow erosion of my spirit, as I lingered in the shadows of his indifference, gradually becoming a mere whisper of my former self. Someone I didn't even recognize caught my attention, and I reflected on how effortlessly one can rationalize the allure of attention when it originates from an unexpected source. They noticed me, despite having no reason to. I reflected on the moment I found myself at a crossroads, yet chose to stay instead of turning back. Then I considered Henry, not as the man he was striving to become, but as the boy he still was, young and bewildered. In a quest to unravel the complexities of a world that felt overwhelmingly intricate, I found myself falling short. In that moment, I let him down, and somehow, too, let myself down as well, for it was never truly about Henry. It was something deeper. Contemplate the emptiness within me the countless years of being ignored, silenced, and unacknowledged. It speaks to the deep-seated longing I hidden beneath pristine surfaces, and courteous exchanges lies the yearning I concealed, a testament to the woman I once cherished. Amidst the sacred promises exchanged, and the quiet moments that followed, here I found myself, seated in reflection. In a boy's bedroom, I find myself clutching a notebook brimming with secrets that were never intended for my eyes. I feel broken, ashamed, and utterly exposed, awakening to the reality of what I had permitted myself to transform into. I pondered whether it truly revolved around him, or if I simply yearned for someone to evoke a sense of feeling within me. Revived, once more, yet at what price? Have you ever experienced such profound loneliness, such a deep, aching solitude? Within the confines of your existence, even the most misguided attention began to resemble a form of redemption. I hold no pride in any of it. I have made my choices, and I'm not here to play the role of a victim. Overlooking the subtle cues, I allowed silence to take hold in my marriage, nurturing it with my inaction. Those roots intertwined with fleeting glances, with moments I should have silenced. And perhaps you've never found yourself in a predicament quite like mine, or perhaps, just perhaps, you've ventured a little too near that familiar precipice, the kind where your heart softly reveals truths that your mind may wish to overlook. So, I must ask you sincerely, what would you have chosen to do? Have you ever encountered a moment when your heart seemed to betray your principles, making it feel utterly impossible to do the right thing? Engaging in the wrong actions stirred emotions within you once more. Please understand, I don't express this merely for attention. I share it because I genuinely feel it. I would love to hear from others. Please leave a comment and share your story, no matter how small it may seem, chaotic, particularly when it stems from those instances that often go unspoken, yet many of us bear these burdens in silence. And if this narrative resonated with you, even if it stirred discomfort or provoked reflection, discover the secrets you've hidden away by subscribing to the Stories I Know. Don't forget to hit the bell for updates and remain nearby, as more authentic tales like this are on the way. Stories that resonate with us all. Though hesitant to confess, I find it impossible to overlook the truth of my humanity. In all my experiences, I've uncovered a lesson that, while straightforward, resonates deeply within me. In the profound stillness of abandonment, even the faintest murmur can evoke the essence of affection, yet not every sound carries that warmth. Attention is intended to be embraced. Some of it serves as a test, a reflection, a gentle reminder of how delicate we truly are. If you've ever felt unseen, I acknowledge your presence. If you've ever, when you find yourself wishing to reverse a decision, remember you are not alone in this feeling. However, I urge you to guard your heart, particularly in moments of vulnerability, most exposed, as the harm we inflict often extends beyond our hearts. It resonates. And as the moment fades and the haze dissipates, you find yourself amidst the remnants of all that you didn't refuse, the solace of a silent home, a shattered reality, and the lingering resonance of what once was. It nearly unfolded. This was my tale, a genuine narrative emerging from the depths of longing, and regret lingers as I navigate the journey of forgiving the woman I transformed into, all in the pursuit of feeling alive once more.